Over the last few years, whenever you've heard about the global chip shortage, it's always been about this big race for the fastest, most powerful processors, right? Well, what if I told you the real crisis, the one that's actually causing these huge delays and costing billions, has almost nothing to do with that cutting-edge stuff? Yeah, let's dive into the side of the story that most people are missing. You've probably felt this yourself. You order a new car, maybe an appliance, and that delivery date just keeps slipping and slipping. You're told it's because of the chip shortage, but what does that really mean?
I mean, the story the headlines love to tell is pretty exciting. It's this high-stakes geopolitical drama over the most advanced chips in the world, the ones that are going to power our AI, our supercomputers, and the latest and greatest smartphones. It's a great story.
But that story misses the most important part. The real bottleneck, the place where everything is grinding to a halt, isn't at the cutting edge. No, the most intense pressure is on tech that most people would call, well, obsolete. The humble, kind of boring chips that quietly make our world work.
And that brings us right to the heart of the problem. It's a concept that's forcing everyone to rethink the entire global supply chain, the problem of these so-called obsolete parts. It all starts with a simple definition.
Component obsolescence. All this means is that a part isn't being made anymore, but it's still absolutely critical for machines that are supposed to last for decades. Think factory robots, medical equipment, or the dozens of control systems inside your car.
Okay, and this is where the problem really snaps into focus. I mean, look at this. A new semiconductor? Its entire production life might be just 5 to 7 years, but the gear it goes into? That stuff's built to last for 15, 20, sometimes 30 years. You can see the disconnect right away. It's huge.
And this number just puts it in stark relief. For every one piece of industrial equipment, the little electronic parts inside it could go out of production 4, 5, even 7 different times during its operational life. It's like building a recurring crisis right into the system.
And believe me, this isn't just a theory. The data shows a massive spike in parts getting that end-of-life notice. In 2022 alone, these notifications shot up by over 40%. And they've stayed up there. This isn't just a blip. It's the new normal for the supply chain.
So, the big question is, why now? Why are these older but totally essential components suddenly so impossible to find? Well, it all boils down to the basic physics and economics of how supply chains actually work.
Okay, so this is how it all goes down. This is not a shortage caused by everyone suddenly wanting more stuff. It's a supply-driven shortage. First, the chip makers decide to make less of the older, not-so-profitable parts. Then, those legacy components get shoved to the back of the line. Critical inventory just isn't rebuilt. The pressure builds and builds, super quietly behind the scenes until, bam, it's too late.
This quote from Rand Technology just nails it. It's not some big, loud wave you can see coming. It's a tide. It rises silently, steadily, and then all of a sudden, you're flooded.
And here's the real kicker. Look at where the pain is actually coming from. A full 90% of the supply chain disruptions since 2022 are because of these older, mature technologies. That whole fight over cutting-edge chips, that's barely 10% of the problem.
And the reason why is just simple economics. If you're a foundry, why would you spend billions to expand an old factory for cheap parts when you could spend that same money on a brand new factory for super profitable AI chips? The financial incentive just isn't there. All the money is pointing toward the new stuff, leaving the old tech in the dust.
So this economic reality, it creates these enormous ripple effects, and it's putting a ton of pressure on the industries that are literally the backbone of our economy.
Just take a look at the car industry. A McKinsey report shows that even way out in 2030, 2/3 of the chips cars will need are still going to be these older, mature node types. The entire industry is fundamentally hooked on the very technology that chip makers are walking away from.
So what happens when a car company can't get its hands on a $2 chip? Well, they have to do a forced redesign of their product, which can easily cost over $200,000 for just one part. All of a sudden, hunting down that obsolete component, no matter how hard it is, starts to look like the only sane option. And you can't just turn these old factories back on overnight. As Andrea Klein from Rand Technology explains, it's not like flipping a light switch. It takes months to hire people, train them, and get the production lines running again. And that's the gap. That's where the crisis lives. And it is so important to remember what we're talking about here. This is the backbone. The factories that build everything, the medical devices that keep us alive, the defense systems that keep us safe, all of it depends on these supposedly outdated but totally essential little pieces of technology.
This whole situation is so severe that it's forcing a complete do-over. Companies and even entire countries are having to toss out the old rulebook and write a completely new one for the supply chain.
So at the company level, the game has changed from being reactive to being proactive. People are now planning 18 to 24 months out. They're designing products from the start so they can accept parts from different suppliers. They're locking in these big, long-term supply deals. Basically, they're moving from just buying parts to building real strategic partnerships.
And this has gone way beyond the boardroom. Securing the chip supply chain is now a national security issue. Governments are pouring money into growing talent at home, making it easier for university research to become actual products, and just treating this whole thing like the top-tier national priority that it is.
And you can see it happening right now. Big automakers, Ford, GM, Mercedes-Benz, they're not just dealing with their suppliers anymore. They are blowing past all the middlemen and going straight to the source, forming partnerships directly with the chip makers to guarantee their supply for years to come. This is a fundamental shift in how business is done.
So, when you boil it all down, it leaves us with this one big question. We live in a world that is completely obsessed with what's new, what's next, the next big thing. But this whole crisis is forcing us to ask a different, and maybe, just maybe, a more important question. How do we protect the proven, reliable tech that our modern lives are actually built on?